In this video, we're going to show you how to install a CV axle on your Volvo S60 located behind the passenger side front wheel. With the vehicle raised and supported, we're going to use our 19mm socket to loosen the lug studs. I'm going to go ahead and set these aside. You want to be ready to capture that wheel because the stud itself is going to come out with it and the wheel is going to follow right after. Grab that wheel, remove it, and set it aside. Now with the wheel removed, you're going to locate your end link right here. And this is an 18mm nut right here. We're going to use our gun here to go ahead and loosen and remove that nut. The nut is clearly spinning with the stud here, so what we're going to use is a Torx bit to hold the center and our wrench to go ahead and spin off the nut. We use our T40 Torx bit in the center here. On the back side of our strut here, we have our ABS wire that comes through and attaches to the strut. We want to go ahead and remove this wire from the little bracket. Now, you don't want to pull on this wire or here. We're going to go ahead and put a finger on each side, and we're going to work this rubber grommet out, rolling that out gently. And if you follow back, there's a bracket on the back side here as well, right behind our sway bar end link. We're going to go ahead and just work this out. Work the grommet and not the wire. Our next step is to go ahead and loosen and remove the strut to knuckle nuts. We're going to leave the bolts in place. So we're going to use an 18mm wrench on the bolt side. We're going to use a 21mm socket on our impact gun. We will be reusing this hardware, so just save that and put it aside. Using a 13mm socket, let's go ahead and loosen and remove the axle nut. Now I want to go ahead and make sure that the axle shaft is free from the wheel hub on the splines itself. And you can use a brass punch and normally just kind of push on it and see if it moves. And ours is actually moving here. You can see that moving in and out on the splines. Now for any reason, if it's not moving, go ahead and use a brass punch, put it on the axle end here, and go ahead and give this a few whacks to go ahead and break that free. You can go ahead and spray some rust penetrant inside here as well to go ahead and loosen that up. But before tearing the rest of this apart, you do need to make sure that axle is free floating. Our next step, go ahead and remove your brake caliper and bracket as well. We're gonna remove all this together. So we're gonna use our 15mm socket on our ratchet here. We're going to loosen this. Let's go ahead and get the lower one. Now, as a heads up, we have our bump stop right here, or a bump stop bracket that bolts on, and it goes on the outside of our knuckle. The bracket and everything is on the inside. So when we remove these bolts, you're going to have a separate piece that's going to want to drop off, so be careful of that. I'm removing the bottom one first on purpose. Next thing I'm going to prepare you for is to go ahead and grab a securing strap. You could use something like this here. And what we're going to do is when we remove this upper bolt, we're going to remove this piece here, the bump stop bracket, and set that aside. This whole unit with the caliper and the bracket, we're going to support it with this, and we're going to hang it off of our strut spring. Slide this all off and go ahead and hang this off of our strut. Now from up underneath, right on the inside portion of the passenger side cradle here on the back side of the engine, you got to locate the CV axle over here. Now this goes over into the transmission. This side goes out to the wheel. Now we have the carrier right here. We want to go ahead and use our 10mm socket on our ratchet, and we want to go ahead and loosen and remove these two bolts. You can see ours, the bearing here is already loose. Sometimes you have to tap it a couple of times with a hammer to break it free, but ours is already free floating. So now we're going to go ahead and try and pop the inside portion out of the transmission. Now on the inboard portion right here, there's going to be a lip on the axle shaft right here. And we're going to use our pry bar, and we're going to get right behind that lip. You can see how the tip of that disappears behind there, and just gently pry that, just pop it out. That's it. Is already dislodged. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move to the outside. We're going to separate that axle and pull it out. Now from inside the wheel well area, we want to go ahead and remove our strut 2-knuckle bolts. Now in most cases, you won't be able to pull that bolt out. I'm going to go ahead and put my jack underneath. I'm going to gently support this. And I should be able to jack this up to the point where it takes the pressure off the strut and the knuckle. Pull out that upper bolt. The bottom one does have pressure on it, so now we're going to lower our jack a little bit. Now as we lower it, the knuckles is going to want to pull towards you. As this is coming out, go ahead and work that axle. Get that lower bolt out. Let's go ahead and work the strut loose here. Now at this point, we can go ahead and grab that whole axle. It's going to pull out of the transmission. And remove it. Now before you install the axle, you want to go ahead and inspect the seal here on the transmission. Now if it's damp or shows signs of leaking, you need to go ahead and replace the seal now. We're just going to do a quick wipe on the inside here, make sure everything is in good condition. Let's go ahead and install our axle. I'm going to go ahead and line this up. I'm going to rotate it until it lines up with the splines inside the transmission. There it is. Now you need to make sure that your bearing is fully flush or seated on the carrier housing here. Ours is off just a little bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up our axle on the end, use our rubber mallet, and pop that in. We can actually see that move in. Go ahead and take our cap here, and we can see that the ears are not lining up. Flip that right over. Here we go, and go ahead and get the bolt started. There it is. I'm going to gently snug those down. Let's torque these down to 18 foot-pounds. Now we went ahead and put some anti-seize compound on the splines for our CV axle. I want to take this and bring our knuckle up into position. I also want to line up our strut. So we're going to work this all together, working that axle into this here. And once you get that lined up, we can go ahead and push this down. Let's get our lower bolt in. Now we put a little bit of grease on the newly supplied axle bolt. Line this up and push our axle in. Thread that into place. Now our next step is to go ahead and install our upper bolt here. Now you won't be able to push this in until you put a jack underneath. Now as you start to jack up underneath from the control arm, it's going to compress our suspension slightly, and it's going to actually allow that knuckle to work inward, allowing you to pop the bolt in. Now that we have the upper and lower strut bolts in, we can now go ahead, lower and remove our jack. Take your brake caliper and bracket, line that up and slide that onto the brake rotor. Now holding that there, we have our bump stop bracket here. Put that through. I'm going to go ahead and line up that top one here, get that started a few threads. Let's go ahead and line up the bottom. Now I'm going to thread these in as far as I can because they're fairly easy to go in. Now we want to torque these down to 73 foot-pounds. We're now going to go ahead and torque down our axle nut to 25 foot-pounds. Let's go ahead and pop a screwdriver into the brake rotor here, right into the cooling fin. That'll just kind of lock it into place. Now we have to go ahead and continue to tighten this here an additional 90 degrees. Now how I'm going to do this here to get the additional 90 degrees, I'm going to go ahead and take a marker and I'm going to mark this right at 12 o'clock. I'm going to continue to tighten this until this bolt is now facing 90 degrees at 3 o'clock. All set. Let's get it and install the nuts here on your strut bolts. Let's go ahead and snug those down. Now I want to get and torque these down to 77 foot-pounds. Once we have the nuts torqued, we need to go ahead and rotate these an additional 60 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and mark this right up at 12 o'clock. And these need to be rotated 60 degrees, so it's a little bit shy of our 90-degree quarter turn. There it is. Let's go ahead and do the same for the top. There we go. These both are torqued. Let's go ahead and install our ABS wire here. Now a little trick here is go ahead and spray this down with some spray solvent. It does make that rubber a little bit more slick, allowing you to slide that into place with little effort. And let's go ahead and line this other one up in the back here. Go ahead and bring this around, get that installed. Go ahead and tighten that down. Let's go ahead and torque that down to 66 foot-pounds. Now before starting this here, I'd like to go ahead and line up our brake rotor so that we have one of the wheel studs holes right at 12 o'clock. Grab your wheel, line that up. I'm going to try and get that top center one started. Once we have that top center one started, we can go ahead and let go of that, and then we'll get the other four started. Once these are all started, we're going to go ahead and snug them down. When doing this here, it's preferred to do it in a crisscross or a star pattern. Let's torque down our lug nuts to 103 foot-pounds. Once again, doing this in a crisscross or star pattern. Let's come back to that first one more time, just double check it, and you're all set. After finishing this installation, it's important to have an alignment done on your vehicle.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.